Go.
Hello, welcome to this week's Maker Meeting from Workshop 88. Each week we explore projects that our members are working on and topics of interest to our Patreon supporters. Our Makerspace workshop primarily serves the western suburbs of Chicago, and these meetings are about the opportunity to interact with the community of makers, the safest way we know during a pandemic. We learn by sharing and asking questions. If you see the value or have something to add, then you should become a member no matter where you live. Membership includes our Slack channels for even more discussions on a variety of topics. Tonight, we're going to be sharing our homemade DIY projects from around the house. Maybe you will discover some inspiration. So I'm going to start out by showing some things that are part of my daily life. So that I brought over. In my bathroom, on my bathroom sink counter, I have my 3D printed objects that I use, keep my combs and toothbrush and toothpaste organized. I made this a while ago, but I had to expand it, but I didn't want to reprint the whole thing. So then I just printed a couple of more spaces. So I keep those together. And that kind of stems from, it's a 2-bowl sink. The other side likes to be clean all the time, but there are things that I use every day and I don't want to put away every day and take back out. So I feel like if everything has a place, then it's okay. Everything, as long as it's in its place. My other, in the kitchen, I may had 2 of these because one of them wasn't enough to hold everything, but these are my kitchen quick grabbing tools, and I made a giant cup for that. But there's more pencil holder type cups like that around my house than I could even count, probably. My Raspberry Pi is resting on a 3D printed cradle, but I didn't take it apart from my 3D printer. But I do have this hanging on, I didn't design it, but it's hanging on a basket that I have on the tray that's underneath my 3D printer for my quick grabbing tools, the 3D printer. My Allen wrenches in here. So that's around. Maybe I don't use it every day, but it is right there. I can find stuff where I need it. This I grabbed off my nightstand. It actually has some remote controls in it. And
what are the digits around that last one you had?
This is, yeah, I'm a little late. This is the pi.
Okay.
The pi one. Yeah. This is pi.
How many digits?
I don't know. I didn't count, but I have even taller ones. There's different sizes. The bathroom stuff I designed. The rest of it I downloaded from Thingiverse. But there are taller versions. So this was good teacher gifts for math teachers when my kids were in high school and stuff.
It might just it might just be the camera, but all of those things that you were showing, like that kitchen thing, the quality looks fantastic.
It's a good camera, I guess.
The quality of the print, it's a good printer too. The print quality looks great.
But I'm looking at the color difference, and in person I see orange, and in the camera it's a very yellow orange. So it's a difference in that there too. And I mean, I do have the old standbys of what I handed out for Halloween. Is for holding stuff up. I have a lot of extras around the house and I use them. So that's an example of some stuff that I had. So,
Gail, can I ask some of those things, the holders look like they might have been printed in, I guess it's called vase mode. Do you know if those were printed?
I designed them in Tinkercad.
Okay.
So I don't know. I just, you make an object and then you make an object a little bit smaller, but taller to have the receptacle.
I think it's a slicer setting for vase mode. I watched a video about it where they can make, there's limits to the shapes.
That's for making really thin walls, which I think Gail's are thicker than that.
Thicker than that, right?
Okay. Trying to get super thin walls that might be a little flexible. You can.
And it's fast, I guess, was its virtue.
And
right?
and it's because it's only one, because it's one layer thick, it's faster.
Yeah. I made them fit the items that I had, like especially the front for the smaller containers. I made
Sure.
it so that they fit.
Fit right in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't mean to jump in or whatever, but I have a pencil holder that it's a scutoid. I did not design this, but I did print it in vase mode, like you're talking about, and
okay.
it's very, very thin walled. And then I just, because Gail, your whatever it is, the bathroom thing, it reminded me of the I did design this, but it's a modular tool caddy sort of thing. And so I had a very particular set of tools that I wanted, in here, including screwdrivers and some other things. And so pencils and whatever. And so I designed this in Tinkercad. And the cool thing about Tinkercad was they had the feature where you can, the sort of the sockets or whatever to join things together. And so it's a ball and socket sort of thing. And they all just kind of like lock into this base plate or whatever. And so my idea was that people could, if people wanted their own different arrangements of things, or if I wanted a different arrangement of things, I could just print out a bunch of different pieces and put them all together in different ways.
It's like Legos.
Yeah.
No, I hadn't seen that ball and socket connector thing. So, thank you for the heads up on that.
Yeah. I can share the Tinkercad link sometime.
Okay, ready for Peter next?
Okay, I guess I'm up. So let's see. Let me see if I can share my application here. So you're seeing my screen, I assume?
Yep.
So I was kind of thinking that the charge for tonight, or at least what I had in my mind, was that I was trying to come up with examples of things where I've either been able to repair something around the house, or give a new life to something around the house, or keep from throwing something away by fixing a part or making a part for some other project or some other object. So I just went through kind of all the STL files that I had in my directory and tried to see which ones would qualify for this category. So this is one that I've talked about before. So I have this very old radio. It's probably like a 30-year-old or so ICOM radio, which originally came with the NiCad battery pack, and those NiCad battery packs are no longer available. They're very expensive if you can find them at all. But it also had the option to you can run it off 3 AA batteries if you have this special plastic insert that you can see them inserting into the battery compartment here, and then you can put the 3 alkaline batteries in there. And I thought I had lost my little insert, so I ended up designing and printing that replacement insert. And then after a few years, I found out that I did still have the original one, so I have it here to compare to. So the one on the left is the original, and the one on the right is my 3D printed replacement. And the trick here is that there's 2 switches in the battery compartment, and here's the bottom of it. There's one switch which is normally pressed by the NiCad pack and not pressed by the alkaline batteries. So there's a switch here or a switch here which is not pressed when the alkaline batteries are in place. And then there's another little protrusion here on the original or here on mine, which presses the magic switch when you have the alkaline batteries in place. And that presses a switch that's down in the bottom of the battery compartment. So you do have to you can't just put the batteries in there. You have to have this little insert in particular, because it presses this magic little switch. So after I did this myself, just kind of on a whim, I started putting these on eBay and seeing how they would sell. Oh. And it's probably been over the course of about 4 years, I've probably sold about 100 of these things. Wow. So like I say, not enough to get rich on, but I figure that I sell them for $11 or $12 a piece, and I figure after shipping costs and eBay fees and so on, I make maybe $7 a piece. So, I may sell one every month or every 2 months, and I've been surprised for this very old equipment how much the orders still keep coming in.
Well, and I'm sure, by the way, the people who have kept that radio for all those years are just thrilled that they can go somewhere and find someone who still cares about that radio.
I've
That's
had
worth way more than the $7.
I've had some very favorable comments from people saying that. You know,
Is that, I assume that first switch you mentioned is just to keep from trying to charge the alkalines?
I assume it's something like that. Yeah, I don't know exactly what it is. There's one that's closed, presumably opened or closed by the alkaline pack, and one that's opened or closed by the NiCad pack. And I don't know exactly what they do, but that's probably it. I know it won't even work. And so it's not a matter of like preventing the charging or something. It doesn't even work without this one, but it's probably something like that. So this was a board game that we played with my son when he was very small, and it had these little plastic markers, and it didn't really matter what these markers look like. So the fact that the replacement ones look a little bit different from the original ones really wasn't important. And like until I made the 3D printed replacements, we were just using pennies as markers. But it was kind of cool that the replacement ones, they're about the size of a penny, maybe. It's cool that the replacement ones kind of look like the original ones, and we were able to continue to play that board game. This is something that I made for a friend of mine. This is a valance clip for a like some blinds that he had in his house, and they had tried for years to find replacements for these, and finally found someone on the internet who claimed to sell them and charged an arm and a leg for them, and then never delivered. So the one on the left is one of the few non-broken ones that he had, and he gave that to me, and I made the 3D printed one on the right, this goes over the curtain rod and somehow snaps into place, and then the valance hangs on this. But so he was thrilled by that, I was able to make these for pennies that he couldn't get at any price on the internet. And it didn't, the color, in this case, the color didn't really matter because you can't see these clips. So I made 3 or 4 of those from him to get his hold up the valances on his blinds. And then I showed this at the meeting a few weeks ago, but this is near and dear to my heart because this was the first thing I ever not this, but a replacement for this was the first thing I ever 3D printed. And this is we had a piece of sound equipment at our church that had 8 of these knobs, and half of them were missing. So I was able to take one of the ones that I still had and come up with a 3D printed replacement, which would fit into that panel and replace the missing knobs. And then, so this is on my printer. Actually, this was probably done on the Naperville Library printer, but it's done on an FDM printer. And then just on a whim, I sent the design off to Shapeways and had them build one of them for me using their SLS nylon technology, and comes out looking really nice, but also fairly expensive. I think it was, this uses like 10 cents worth of plastic if I do it myself. This was like $12 for the knob and $12 for shipping or something like that to get the replacement knob. That was sort of just an experiment. This is a pull cord for my blinds, so I wasn't replacing something that previously existed. It was just my wife asked if there was something that we could do that would look better than the knot on the end of the cord. So this is a cord pull from Thingiverse that goes on the vertical or the horizontal blinds. This is a Microsoft wireless mouse that needed a door over this battery compartment. And in this case, I did not have the original anymore. So I had to kind of think about what would fit in that space and how it could clip in and how it could, what kind of latching mechanism I could use and so on. But I believe I managed to find a picture of what the original one looked like. So that was very helpful in fabricating the replacement that goes in here, because what you do is you kind of, well, it might be easier to see on this one. You push on it right here to push in and allow the clip to come in or to release it, and then it snaps into place right here. So that's a picture of it, of the mouse with its door in place, and I was able to keep using that mouse. This is something that I did just recently for a friend of mine in the flying club. This is a probably like a 1960s vintage toy airplane. That it's the wingspan is probably about a foot, and it uses this teeny tiny little Cox engine, and it's all put together with rubber bands. So like there's a rubber band holding the wing on, and there's a rubber band holding the engine compartment on, and there's a rubber band that holds the tail surface on, so that if it ever crashes, the rubber bands just break and you put it back together with rubber bands. But he has 3 of these, and 2 of them are missing this tail rudder assembly. So he asked me if I could come up with a replacement, and this is the original, and this is the 3D printed replacement. And once I had the design for that, I could make as many as I want. And he has spares for all of his airplanes, and if any of them break, it's easy to make more. So I just gave him those a few weeks ago, and I haven't seen it fly yet, but I'm hoping to see that fly one of these days when we get some nice weather.
Peter, what did you have to use any supports?
Yes.
For
yes.
For those,
so,
and then what way did they get printed?
So they're printed with this. This was the bottom, right along here. So all of this area was supported. And then I broke then the supports, and so the layer lines go across this way.
They almost look like whale heads.
Yeah, so it's easier. Yeah, it's easier to see. You know, there's a little flange here, right here, that you're seeing my mouse, right? When I move my mouse, are you seeing what I'm pointing to?
Yes.
Okay. And so that little flange fits under here and is just held down. It kind of levers in there, and then that holds down the front end, and then the back end is held down by this rubber band that goes over these pins. So not a perfect match in terms of shape, but it looks like it should work pretty well in terms of function. It's another airplane project. This is an airplane that someone actually gave me this plane, and the previous owner had put on these fake exhaust pipes. They're just wooden dowels that are painted gray with the end painted black, but somehow I managed to lose one. So 3D printed a replacement so there were 3 on one side and 3 on the other, and one was missing. So this is a replacement one printed out of gray PLA plastic. This is a clamp from Harbor Freight that had these plastic pads on them, and lost one of the plastic pads. So this is the original sort of rubber pad, and this is the PLA printed replacement pad. And at the time, that's all I knew, so I did it in PLA. I subsequently figured out that that's a perfect application for TPU, which is kind of a rubber, but pretty hard rubber. So it's still pretty stiff, but it's slightly softer and more rubbery than the original PLA. So this is the original one. This is the PLA version, and this is the TPU version, which, again, like I said, is just slightly flexible, which is perfect for that. And then another perfect application for TPU was this one. So this is an old portable projection screen, like people used to use with old slide projectors or something, but our church still uses when we need to show videos in the sanctuary. So this one and this one are the originals, and it lost one of the rubber feet, so it had the kind of sharp edges that were digging into the carpet. And I originally, several years ago, I did a PLA version, but that was another perfect example for TPU. So that the TPU version is like it's slightly rubbery, so it's still pretty stiff, but just slightly rubbery and pretty sturdy and fit right on there quite nicely.
Peter, is that the kind of stuff they make like iPhone cases out of? I've seen 3D printed iPhone cases.
Yeah,
that I thought might be.
I think they do. I think it might be a little bit stiff for that. But of course you do. I mean, a case has to be pretty stiff. I haven't done that myself. That could well be the stuff they use because it's just slightly flexible. Yeah, thinking about it as hard rubber is probably the best way to think about it. And you probably could make a case.
Okay.
So this is another thing I did for a friend. So he had a Delta table saw that used this what they call a cursor, and I have a picture of how it's actually used. But it's held on by a bolt here and a bolt here, and it's apparently a fairly common thing for those for that thin piece of plastic to break out and not work anymore. So he asked if I could make a replacement. And this was my replacement, which uses these little pointers instead of the cursor in the clear plastic. And I posted that on Thingiverse, and someone on Thingiverse took it and remixed it. And the main thing they did was they added these little indicators. This one is showing that the fence is down, and this one is showing that the fence is up. So the idea, and then this is his picture that he posted to Thingiverse of his cursor with the broken out pieces. And this is how it's used in practice. So the fence on the saw can be in two different positions. It can be in a down position, in which case you use this pointer to see how far out your fence is, or it can be in an up position, and then you use this pointer to see how far out your fence is. So the pointers tell you where you're looking at. So my friend was giddy about having that to keep his table saw going. This is the church has some chairs that they call them sled chairs where instead of having legs, it has a piece of steel rod that goes down from the seat and then along the floor and up to the other seat. So what's on the floor is a long piece of metal parallel to the floor, and it has 4 of these little rubber feet on them, and those are actually hard plastic feet. And those hard plastic feet sometimes come off and get lost. They whoops, did I lose my picture? I must have lost my picture of my replacement for that. So sorry. I did a 3D replacement out of PETG for that. Maybe it'll show up eventually if it's somewhere else in my slideshow, or maybe not. But these same chairs also have on the bottom of the chair, it has 4 little rubber bumpers so that when you stack the chairs on top of each other, each chair rests on these little bumpers on the chair below. And the original ones are made out of this kind of hard rubber, and they tend to either come unscrewed and fall off, or actually that seems to be the most common thing. Sometimes they break and fall off, but usually they just fall off and get lost. And so this is a PLA replacement that can screw onto the bottom of the chairs. And then that was another case where once I was doing TPU was a good application for that. So this is the PLA version, and this is the TPU version of those little rubber bumpers that go on the bottom of the chairs. This is another thing that I've had for decades, which is a folding chair that you can carry around with you. You can carry it sort of like a cane when it's folded up, and then it expands into a little 4-seat stool that you can use if you want to sit down when you're at the flying field or at some kind of outdoor event. And it had 4 of these little rubber feet on them, but they get lost. And actually it had 5 of them. It used to have one on each of the 4 feet and one here. So the first one I lost, I was able to steal it from here and put it on the foot. But when the second one got lost, then I was out of luck until I could print the replacement bottom out of TPU, and that seems to be holding up pretty well, pretty sturdy and holding up pretty well. This is a Dell keyboard, which has this is the original part. It has these little flip down feet that you can use to hold up to raise the back of the keyboard a little bit. And those get lost, but someone had a design on Thingiverse for a replacement. So that's the foot in the down position, and that's the foot in the up position. And so that gave, so these were like keyboards that I think I have several of these that I bought from the library for about $1 a piece or something like that. But I had to replace so that's the same 3D printed part to replace that foot. Oh, here's the there it is. That's the floor glide for the sled chair. So it's there's a metal rod that's the base of the chair that it snaps over, and then there's a little groove on the chair where this little protrusion fits into. So haven't used that enough to see how well it actually holds up in practice, but it feels pretty solid. So I'm hoping that will work out okay. I may have talked about this on a meeting a while back too. These are Black & Decker had this line of tools that they called the VersaPack line that use these 3.7 volt or 3.6 volt NiCad or nickel metal hydride batteries. And I actually have a bunch of this equipment. I have flashlights and drills and saws and garden tools and various things that use either one or two of these battery packs. But this is so old that the battery packs are nearly impossible to find and expensive if you find them. So people have figured out how that an 18650 battery is almost a perfect fit, both physically and functionally, for the 3.7 volt 18650 is a good replacement for the 3.6 volt triple NiCad or nickel metal hydride pack. So they originally had silver packs, which were NiCad, and gold packs, which were nickel metal hydride. But people figured out how to take them apart and slip an 18650 in there if you want something that's very physically similar to the original one. But on Thingiverse, you can also get the 3D printed plastic version. And this is a little door that hinges open and sticks the 18650 pack in, and compare it in size and shape to the original Black & Decker pack. And there it is, snapped into a drill. So it's very easy to take these out, pop the 18650 pack into a charger, and I can always have spare batteries lying around to charge these things with. Can
you charge them with the original charger, or do you have to?
No.
Oh, okay.
You need a lithium-ion charger.
Okay.
So I have an external charger that you just pop those batteries out and stick them in the charger. But they also have they're also significantly more capacity than the original NiCads too, especially the old ones that lose their capacity over time would hardly. They would only run for a minute or two.
Yeah.
Whereas those 18650s will run for a long time. Let's see. These pictures are out of order too. Yeah, this is an HP calculator, HP 41, which is the best calculator ever made. So I've had this one since college, but it has this little door. This is where you stick the charger in to charge it. And there's a little door over this charger that always gets lost. And I actually have two of these calculators, one of which has lost its door. This is what the original door looks like. This is what the replacement door from Thingiverse looks like. And that's what the original door looks like when it's snapped into place. And this is what the 3D printed replacement door looks like when it's snapped into place on the side of the calculator. So it just covers up that charging port when you're not using it. My mother-in-law had this very old printing calculator, which was missing this little plastic bracket that holds the paper. And that had me stymied for a little bit because I didn't have the original. So first I was thinking, well, how can I do this? I don't really know what it looks like. And then I said, no, it really doesn't matter what it looks like, as long as it's somehow able to hold the roll of paper and somehow snap onto the calculator. And I had the calculator, so I was able to come up with this thing, which slides over the edges of there's like a door where the paper goes in, and this slides on over the edges of that door. And these can spring apart just far enough to slip the roll of paper in there. And so then so that holds the paper, and then the paper goes into the calculator. So that
was it printed in the direction we see it?
it was printed in that direction. Yes.
So then you must have put supports underneath.
So there
the
were
overhang.
supports. Yep. The only supports it needed were, and that wasn't really a big deal either, because the fact that these aren't perfectly round, or the fact that, if there's any support artifacts or whatever on them, the hole in the print in the spool that the paper's on is larger than those pins. So there's a lot of slop. It just has to basically just sort of rest on those pins. But yeah, the only support was under those overhanging pins.
I thought you were going to say because it was for your mother-in-law, it wasn't going to matter.
So yep, she was happy to have that have her old calculator working again. So okay, so that's my whirlwind tour of replacement parts.
Well, that's really the theme in spades, Peter.
Very cool. I guess the lesson here is, things seem to go missing around Peter. Like there's a whole lot of like, what? These things go missing, and so I got to 3D print another one. So
well, I think it's a little bit of if you have a hammer, you're always looking for nails. So so I always have it in the back of my head. I don't want to throw that away. It just needs a replacement part.
Remind me what software to use for the designs.
So, well, a bunch of I mentioned that in a few cases. I may not have mentioned it in all the cases. A bunch of those things are things that I just got off Thingiverse, like the VersaPack battery holder and the HP41 battery cover, and a few of the other things were things from Thingiverse. Most of the things I do myself, I do with FreeCAD. So let's see if I guess I could do that really quickly, I guess. So this was mine with FreeCAD. This was Thingiverse. This was Thingiverse. This was mine with FreeCAD. This was Thingiverse. This was mine with FreeCAD. Mine with FreeCAD. Mine with FreeCAD. 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 Thingiverse. FreeCAD. And FreeCAD. 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 So.
Have you published any of the things that you did of your own design on Thingiverse, or do you not do that?
Several of the ones that I have done on I have published. So the only one that I for sure haven't was was this one that I'm still trying to make money off of. I've had a couple people ask me for the design, and I've turned them down. I put this one on. I put this one on Thingiverse. I wasn't sure if there was enough market for this one, that enough people would be. It's pretty specialized, so I don't think I posted that one. I don't think I posted this one for the same reason. It's a pretty specialized thing. I think I did post this one on Thingiverse. But this one's pretty specialized. This one's pretty specialized. This one's pretty specialized. This is on Thingiverse, and somebody remixed it. I did not do that one. I did not do that one. And this is somebody else's design from Thingiverse. This is somebody else's design from Thingiverse. So some of them, not all of them.
Well, it'd be nice. We'll try to link to your designs then.
Sure.
Is Bob ready?
So Bob was going to be next. I should have thrown it to him. Yes,
all right.
Yes, I think you're up. I think
if I can try. Let's see if this turns. You guys seeing a blue presentation?
Yep,
all right.
Looks good.
Then I have to figure out how to advance things. There we go. So this is This is a 4-foot resin table from Lifetime, and it's never been so clean as this photo. It was covered with crap, but everything that was on there pretty much was plugged in, and I didn't like those 2 power strips that were on there. I was at Harbor Freight, and they had these nice 4-foot long power strips for what I consider to be a good price, typical Harbor Freight price, I guess. And so I bought the power strip and got it home, and ran into a problem that the table is exactly 48 inches wide, and the power strip has 2 mounting tabs that come off the end, and they added enough extra width to it that the power strip was just slightly wider than the table, still appropriate, and I wanted it on there, but there was just no way to screw the mounting strip down into the table. And even if I had even if it were only exactly 48 inches long, so I go back, you can see the corners of the table are rounded. So, it still wouldn't have worked out well, even if the power strip had been just a, ½ inch shorter or whatever. So it was OpenSCAD to the rescue. And I designed a little bracket, I guess you call it, or mount. So this is just the shape here. I think you're seeing my cursor. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the idea was this would go around the table. This is looking at it upside down. And I'd run a screw through here into the resin table and a screw through here. And then one of those brass heat inserts would go into that, and the mounting hole would come down from the power strip. So I think, oh yeah, I can, if I hit the right button here on, let's see, we'll get an overhead shot. Yes. So here's what these were sort of early drafts of the mounts before I've got the dimensions exactly right. So these I fished out of the garbage just so I could show you. But this is what they look like in real-time 3-dimension. And you can see that they need to be in, mirror images of each other, one for each end of the strip. Oh, and I guess one interesting thing I figured out about OpenSCAD between these 2 prints, if I hold them up, maybe you can see the difference. Let's see here. Something I had never appreciated before is that let me get the angle right. Yeah. You can make out here the individual angles on this one that's closest to the camera, but you don't see any of that on the back. And I didn't realize that setting that magic number in OpenSCAD would impact not only the preview, but also the printing. So I just increased that fractional number or whatever to set it up to, 500 instead of just 50. And then I got a nice smooth curve. Not that it matters, because nobody's ever going to see that. Okay. So, no, I have to get my cursor back over here. And there's the finished bracket under the table. And you can also see there that I don't have a nice organizer. I just have a coffee mug with all my tools jammed into it. A couple of coffee mugs, in fact. But that's the end of the power strip and the little brass heat insert in there. And
nice.
This is the bracket going around the bottom of the table. So that's what it looks like when it's installed. And this is the finished power strip. You can't even really see the brackets on here in replacement. So that's kind of the photo op for the power strip before I put all the crap back on the lab table.
Very nice.
And this is I mentioned this is the Prusa light thing that I bought on Etsy that the guy sold 2,000 of. So that just sits on top of the printer and it screws in through a little thing and lights things up nicely. And this is that same resin table underneath here. And oh, by the way, there's one of Gail Joe's nozzle cleaners right there that snuck into the picture. And the power strip is just barely visible in the back there. So that's the power strip hiding behind there. And I think if I do the right things here, I can show you briefly some cool stuff I learned in OpenSCAD. I think you're seeing my OpenSCAD now, aren't you? Yeah. So this is the model in OpenSCAD. And one of the key things I learned, and I taught myself this, and then I realized it was on somebody had written a blog post about it, is to use this thing called the customizer over here. And I included, let me flip this over before I show you that. So this is the way the mount actually lives on the table. I guess it'd have to be, the one you saw was probably actually a mirror image of this. But so this up is up now on this. And if I flip this box here in the customizer that says show the power strip, now in blue here, this is showing not the appropriate thickness of the power strip, but that's where the power strip would be, and that's the power strip mounting hole. And by turning this on, I can see not just the part I'm designing, but the relationship between the part I'm designing and the actual power strip I'm trying to mate it with, which turns out to be hugely helpful. And then just have to remember to uncheck that box before you hit print. Otherwise you end up with a printed copy of your power strip. So that's a very nice benefit, I think, of this. And I used OpenSCAD for weeks before I discovered this customizer. And boy, am I glad I discovered that, because it really changed the way I work. And I know there was a presentation on OpenSCAD before I joined the group, and maybe this sort of thing was covered there.
No, I believe he did not say anything about the customizer.
Well, if you have another minute, I'll show you a couple other customizer things that are just wonderful.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's see if I can. Oh, all right. I have to get the right desktop here. Yeah. So this is the part of that electronic scorekeeper, and so there's a PCB in here. Let's see if I can show you. Yeah. So the PCB is kind of that light blue that you can see right through, and I think that's with the circuit board removed. And these are when they're somewhere in these are the parts that were on the there. Oh, in fact, like if I turn that all back on and move this model, here we go. Now, as I flip this thing over, you can see these are actually 7-segment displays that actually have the digits in them, and these are the push buttons that are behind there. So when I turn off the parts, now you can sort of see through the holes and turn off the PCB. So this was how I was pretty confident that the 7-segment displays and the switches were going to line up with the holes when I was done there. Yeah, and the kind of a similar thing. This is the bottom half of that same project. I'm using the customizer here. Let's see if I can flip this up a little bit. You can't quite see it, but this thing on the back here I call it the slide, and it really isn't. It doesn't belong there. So this is just controlling whether or not I even want to bother to print the slide. Where the slide actually belongs is in this white spot here. And it moves within this sort of bottom tray, is what it looks like from the bottom. And so this customizer here is now controlling whether or not you even see that. So this is the way it's actually printed, is with a hole in it. And this, let's see if I can zoom in on that there. So in these side things here are channels around the slide, and the slide literally slides back and forth in this and flips the power switch on the MCU. And this is where the battery goes inside that thing. So to push that back a little, oops, let's see, that's the way to zoom out. So anyway, that's the top and bottom half of the thing. And I enjoyed using OpenSCAD for that and the preview features of it. And I think, oh yeah, so that's the last slide is a summary. The thing I learned there is to make models of the things that my models will interact with. It's just kind of a hard thing to explain, but it's in my particular case, pretty much everything I've made has to exist in a world with stuff around it, and the dimensions and the behavior of the thing I was modeling were constrained by the world around it. And finally, I realized instead of just visualizing on my screen the thing I was designing, what I really needed to see was the thing I was designing with the world that it was going to interact with. So I could see them together and manipulate them independently. And it does take some time, because you have to go measure the dimensions of the thing that you're going to interact with and build a model to make it render well. And remember to turn it off when you're printing. But there's just enormous benefits of that in terms of, well, reduced plastic waste, I guess. And then you use this customizer feature of OpenSCAD to turn those things on and off. And you probably did notice a bunch of artifacts. Scott could probably explain the graphics of why that happens. But when you have, especially in the Z plane, you get a lot of that funny shading. And I figured out how to get around that in every case except the arc. So if somebody can figure out, teach me how to avoid that with pi sections, I would love to learn that. And I think that's it. Yep. So that's all for me.
Have you
Yeah.
seen any of the things on Thingiverse that use the customizer?
Oh, I don't know that I have, Peter.
There are designs on Thingiverse that are where you can actually type in, like the number of holes or something like that, and then
Yes.
say, give me an STL with that many holes, and that's what's happening behind the scenes.
I see.
They're feeding it into the SCAD OpenSCAD customizer.
I see.
So, Peter,
I
is that still working on the Thingiverse customizer
Oh,
parts?
well, I have used it, but not for some time. It's probably been a year or so since I actually used it, so maybe it doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. It was the Thingiverse customizer was the front end to OpenSCAD implementation of it. So like if you know and actually the power of it not only was the whole that you could do it right on Thingiverse, but all those customizer designs on Thingiverse had the OpenSCAD files that you could just download, and you could run them and change change it on your own computer or whatever. But now I think that last I checked, when over the winter around Christmas, it was not working. And it's interesting because it's the failure mode that was happening at the time was it would just run infinitely. It wasn't even giving an error that it was, it would say like,
okay,
this will take, X number of hours to render, but like X hours later, it was still running and cycling and whatever in a queue. So, it's one of the sort of, downfalls of present day Thingiverse is they're not really always maintaining that. It might be up right now for all I know, but
I know I have had it. I've used it to get STL files from out of their designs, but it's been a while, and it wouldn't surprise me if it got broken and not maintained. So yes, the fallback is just to go grab the OpenSCAD file and pull it into your own OpenSCAD.
I can show you one other thing kind of related to that I think I did. Let's see if I hit the right button here one more time. There we go. Are you back to seeing?
Yes.
Okay. So I only did check boxes here. I only showed you check boxes, but I also have sliders that let me do things like change like this is set up for 6 of these displays, but I can, let's see if I switch that back to 4. Oops, that's 5. But yeah, so you can vary the parameters. So I was reminded of this when you talked about the number of holes, and I think this is the height of the gaps. So this makes everything taller or something like that.
So yeah,
or wider. Yeah, that's wider.
So
this makes things taller.
That's exactly the kind of thing they would do. They would say, this is a generic game display. You can make it with as many digits as you want by typing in this number.
Yeah, it's a nice feature. Well, and if anybody's a developer or programmer, in at least in C, there's a thing called if-def, which is kind of a wonderful way to sort of make conditional compilation. And the first several weeks of using OpenSCAD, I said there's got to be an if-def, and I just couldn't find the equivalent of an if-def, and it turns out to be this customizer.
Well, there is some. Scott showed us that in I'm not a strong OpenSCAD person, but Scott did show us that in his demo. If you can put like a pound sign or an exclamation mark, I forget which, in front of some construct, and it will make it disappear.
Well, right. Well, you can comment things in and out, but
it's not. It's not exactly a comment.
No, you can highlight. Highlight is one of the things you see with, and
yeah.
I forgot what a pound does. I use both of those, but neither of those really gave me a way to change it dynamically.
That's I guess like one if-def can change things in multiple parts of the program.
Exactly. Well, in the case like do I want to show the battery? So I want to. Do I want to show the 7-segment displays? I'm not going to print the 7-segment displays, but sometimes I want to see them. Sometimes I don't. And I didn't want to have to insert comments to knock out 15 lines of code that generate the displays.
That looks very powerful.
It is. It's a programming language. It's probably Turing complete. So it's kind of a pain, but once you where if you already know how to think like a programmer, it's wonderful. That's it for me.
Well, not quite as cool, either CAD or 3D print, but Bob's thing once again has reminded me. I had a similar problem with a 4-foot strip, and I took a little little cruder version or approach to make my thing fit in the 42-inch space. So I didn't neatly 3D print an adapter
I
for it.
see.
I just took the thing and
Wow.
hacked it and bent, and here's the mounting hooks originally, and this was some piece of sheet metal from the top bent and
I think I like your idea better, Jim.
well, I had to make mine shorter. It was a little different, and that this is where it fit, and that's all the room I had. I had this really nice outlet strip, and it just wouldn't fit, and until I cut it down. So I cut it down.
So
that's a nice job. It looks very.
Yeah,
that's it.
Looks really. The end looks like it was manufactured that way.
What'd you do with the excess part?
I don't know. I don't know whether that's on the pile of stuff that I'm supposed to go through before I throw it away.
You threw it away?
I thought maybe you were going to say you can sell it on eBay as a one outlet strip.
Right. So Bob's stuff keeps reminding me of things.
I wonder if that means you're a future version of me. I'm a past version of you or something.
Brother from another mother. Does Paul have anything he wants to contribute?
Yeah, good question.
After you unmute yourself.
Or even before.
There we go. I do little things, some stuff from Thingiverse, some stuff from I made a jewelry box for my wife. I do a lot of flowers and stuff like that. Lots of spare parts or parts for the printer. Nothing really for the house yet.
Those things are in your house, so they count.
Yep.
I could run away and get one of them.
I'm trying to find something on Thingiverse that it was not one of my own designs. It was something that I got there, but in terms of things from around the house, this is one of my favorites. But I have to find it.
Okay, while you're looking, this is my award-winning design at a contest at Glen Ellyn Public Library. And this is my cutter for material, but this is supposed to have index cards in here. And there's a Pictionary type game where you have a group of 6 people. So you have pencils in here and pieces of paper in here. And it's like telephone, but you have to draw it. So you have like a phrase, and then you draw it, and then you pass it to the person to the right, and they have to figure out what phrase you're trying to draw. And then you go all the way around the whole group, and then at the end you set them all up, and you all laugh at how we didn't get the phrases right at all. So it's like telephone.
And I'm guessing that the index cards, if you put them in on that angled thing, would very neatly fan out, so you could just pull one off without pulling the whole stack out.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. clever design.
We have one of those at Workshop 88 that Gail made for us. So.
Ah.
This is not mine. This is just the Thingiverse page. But talking about things in your bathroom, I just love this little gadget that squeezes every drop out of the toothpaste tube of toothpaste.
Oh gosh. Well, since you brought that up, Peter, I have to show this audience would appreciate something I have in the corner, and I don't know what to do with it. I'll be right back.
I haven't had to print a new one yet. I just use this plastic one.
Okay, yeah.
But I think I saw that one. I wanted to try it.
I tried a couple of different versions, and that one that I just showed is my favorite. But there's quite a few different varieties out there.
So put those links in Slack, and I can include them in the blog.
Okay.
So I want to show you this thing. My grandfather made this probably, I don't know, 50, 60 years ago. It is the same function as what Peter just showed us. It's a toothpaste tube squeezer. The toothpaste tube goes vertically in here. It screws into this thing on top. Well, you can't really see it, but this is how you that's the, the cap of the toothpaste tube screws in there. And these are like knurled rollers, as you can see here, with gears. And as you turn this big knob, there's a series of gears that squeeze the toothpaste tube, and then this whole somehow this whole works goes up, there, like that.
Oh, okay.
So
it
rises.
the top stays fixed.
Yeah, the top stays fixed, and this whole thing, because of the knurled rollers here, right? And so my grandfather had this giant metal lathe in the basement, and he cut the gears on it.
I was gonna ask if he was a machinist, and if he.
I don't think he was a machinist. I think he was more an engineer who puttered with machining in his spare time. And this thing is just covered in dust and dirt and scum and toothpaste, I guess. And I'm going to have to part with it someday. It's quite a contraption. But I guess this was the state of the art in makering 50, 60 years ago. It was just a guy with a lathe in his basement would do stuff like this.
That is really cool.
I'm super confused why that's not in your bathroom. You brush your teeth in your office? Is that...
Yeah. Well, I should be. I'm just a squeezer. I haven't tried to automate it yet.
I would love to see like photos of his bathroom, like with that all set up and like in action or whatever. Either that or I'm misunderstanding how strong people were back in his day when they're lifting it up and holding the toothbrush and getting it out.
Well, frankly, I'm not sure it ever worked well at all, or if it worked as well as the plastic thing you can print for 12 cents instead of that, which weighs about 12 pounds. And, it takes some real cranking to turn that thing. But it was a vision he had, right? And he made the vision come to life in metal, which is a lot of work I wouldn't know how to do.
Also a statement of something that hasn't changed over the years. Toothpaste tubes.
Exactly.
Cheap people trying to get all the toothpaste out.
Cost efficient. Yeah.
Well, I guess we must not have solved the problem perfectly, because people still keep inventing ways to solve it.
Yeah. I actually bought one of those things very similar to the one Peter was showing off of, it was a Kickstarter. And I think it was even before Workshop 88 had a 3D printer. This person had like designed it and put it up on Kickstarter. And so I thought, oh, it's cheap and looks fun and whatever. And I think he even promised he would release the files on Thingiverse or whatever. But anyway, yeah. So I used that for several years until I wore it out. But yeah, it's fun. Very cool.
Cool.
All right. So did anyone else have anything they were planning to share or going to share? We're good.
I thought Paul was going to get something. And did Mace have anything?
Paul, Mace, did you grab anything?
I don't if something breaks around the house, I just decide I didn't need it and I don't fix it. But I used to be into woodworking. And this is one of the, I don't know, can I see?
Oh, cool.
This was actually my first woodworking project. My nephew had taken wood shop in school. We went to Napier North. And I was very impressed with some of the things that he was doing. So I signed up for a class at COD, College of DuPage. And they gave the class at Napier Central. And it was just one of the wood shop teachers in high school, but he was teaching adults. So this was the first thing I'd done. And I made it for my wife. She said, oh, I really, really like this design. It was from like Good Housekeeping or Better Homes and Gardens. So you sent away for the plans and you got the plans and it was just a drawing, no measurements on it or anything. So I took it to the shop and I made it. The birds do not make a nest inside the holes. They make it behind the green roof. They sneak in some way behind there and that's where they nest all the time. It's in bad repair right now and I got to fix it. And then the second thing I did was a CD case holder shaped like a barrister's bookcase. So the lid actually opens up and slides in. There are a little recess along the top, allows you to stack them one on top of the other. It's a shame nobody uses CDs anymore.
So that's beautiful.
That's all I got.
That's very cool. Thanks for sharing. Paul, did you grab something?
Hmm?
Did you grab something?
Yes, I did. So this beautiful box is something I did for Jane. It's a jewelry box.
Wow.
Has inlays, and the box itself has, oops, I need space. Box itself has sections in it, and then I just used some felt for the bottom of it. And then in the top of it, I put a little inscription.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So,
Right in there.
so the box is wood then?
I used wood, a wood PLA wood.
Oh, so the entire box is printed then, but it's when using the wood PLA. Oh, that looks very nice.
Thank you. It's the first big project I ever did, and I was scared to death of it because I thought I'd get all the way to the top and then fail.
Yeah.
So that wood PLA, that's wood PLA, and then did you finish it somehow, like you would finish wood, or did it come out looking like that?
No, I didn't, and I'm not sure how to finish PLA besides sanding it soft and painting it.
So that's just the unpainted print then?
Yep.
That's very nice.
I need. I just got a spool of ABS, and I'll play with that a little bit. I've got some acetone so that I can do some smoothing that way. We'll see how that goes.
What do you do your flower designs in?
The ones on the kit.
Well, how do you make the flower designs like digitally?
Oh, this is from Thingiverse.
Oh, okay. I thought that was one of your designs.
Oh, I wish.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm not that talented with Tinkercad or anything else, but I'm starting to feel like I should get looking into OpenSCAD or one of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Start with something simpler than the flowers, but yeah. Watch some of the tutorials and start with something interesting. Or something small. It's pretty easy to pick it up just a little bit at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of things in process, but I haven't gotten around to wiring them up. I've printed the parts, but I need the smarts and the electronics to make it do something.
Very cool. All right. Any other thoughts spring to mind, or people get reminded of something else? Looking for more industrial sized, really, you know, kitchen gadgets or whatever. Like I want Bob to go find a pizza cutter that's like, you know, the size of a car tire or something like that.
A 12 horsepower pizza cutter, yeah.
A lumber mill saw.
Yeah. All right. You did remind me of something. It'll take me a second to grab it.
Okay, good.
There's a couple years over Christmas. This is several years ago. I made a joke that I was going to get a laser guided table saw or something like that, and it turned out to be a laser guided chop saw or whatever. And so then from then on out, I had to like predict what my Christmas present was going to be or whatever. So it never happened again. But
Talking about gadgets for the kitchen, I think I showed this. I don't remember if it was on one of the calls that we recorded. So hopefully we're not duplicating things. But my wife has a garlic press that she hates to clean because it has all these
Yes.
tiny little holes that you have to get the garlic out of. So she asked if I could make something to do that. So this is it's her invention and my free CAD design that you use that to push all the garlic out of the little holes in the garlic press. So that's a handy addition to our kitchen.
Very
Nice.
Well, I have to say though that I don't know how you do it in FreeCAD because I only played with it, but in OpenSCAD that would be easy to get the grid of holes because you can just write code that marches horizontally and vertically to make little pegs. Yeah,
It's not quite the same, but I did use a trick sort of like that. You can pick up an object and you can group things and make copies of them. So I could I made one cylinder and then manually made 5 copies of those and then group that together to get the column and then I could make copies of those. You know, I could make a row at a time in the other direction. So it wasn't maybe not quite as easy, but it was still
Sure.
It wasn't too bad because you could have it do some of the automation for you.
Well, that kitchen example reminded me of one other thing that I'll throw up here, I guess. Let me hit the right camera. Get it so you're seeing. Here we go. There, that's my overhead camera. This is an orange peeler that I think it's one of the few things I printed directly off of Thingiverse, but it's got a rather sharp point here, and the idea is you hold the spherical orange and you go around it like this to score the skin, and then you can use the spudger end, I guess, to peel the peel back. But I just stick my fingers in there. But anyway, this one's printed with PETG, but I've been using one with just printed with PLA, and I'm surprised at how well this holds up to the acidic orange juice in everyday use.
I'm surprised it's sharp enough. I would have. I've had trouble printing sharp edges in PLA. So
yeah, it's I guess it's because of the hook part here is it's good enough. And of course it was printed with a big skirt, I guess you'd call it, around this end to get that point to come out well on the bed. It was printed this direction, you can maybe tell. But anyway, that's right there on Thingiverse is an orange peeler in case anybody wants to print an orange peeler.
yeah, cool. Right. Now maybe we're done with reminders.
I think so.
I was hoping that someone else would say, "Oh, that reminds me of this." I mean, eventually it's all got to come back to booze, right? I don't know. You were so close, but no, that's very cool. Well, this was amazing. I can't wait to see the huge list of Thingiverse links and all the other things that are going to be generated by all these cool things. So thank you all for sharing. This is really, really, really fun. So I guess I'll close and just say that please like our channel and follow us on Facebook and consider supporting us on Patreon and please share this video and our playlist with other people. We'd love for other people to see this stuff and to get to know more about Workshop 88 and the things that we do. So thanks all for being here, and thanks all for watching.